Hello, everybody. This is House Shrink. Happy holidays. I'm going to wait a bit till people start coming on because today I'm going to be doing a mini lesson on emotions. I think that's something that will be really important during the holidays, but anytime. So I'm going to wait. People are beginning to come in, and I'd like to be able to explain it with as many people as possible. So I'm looking over here. Let's see. Yeah, okay, people are coming in. So what I'm going to be talking about is a little lesson on emotions. And it's going to be very different than what you hear with conventional psychology. So what we're going to do is wait a bit as people come in, and then it'll be easier for me to go over and not have to repeat it so many times. So welcome, everybody. House Shrink here, and today the topic is going to be mini lesson on emotions. Mini lesson on emotions. So, hey, how are you? Everybody coming in and saying hello, and I'm glad you're here. So it's going to be really good. Okay, so as people come in, I'll explain a little bit more, but basically, I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, and I don't practice conventional psychology anymore because it has to do with identifying and diagnosing pathology. And I believe that, of course, there's pathology. There's sociopaths, and there are personality disorders, and there's psychotic processes and dementias and all that, no question. But most of it is really life adjustments that have to be pathologized so then you can file insurance for it. And based on the DSM-5, which I think is a failed model, it's like the Bible of diagnostics. Most of it is just a clinical observation, and the people that determine the particular diagnostics some of them are being paid by some of the pharmaceutical companies, and they give priority to the diagnostics that require medications. So I think that's fraudulent, and I think it's losing credibility, and it lost already. By the way, it's going to be replaced. A DSM-5 there won't be a DSM-6. It's going to be replaced with something much better, which is a research criteria diagnosis, which is going to be based on research, based on evidence, before you can give people a label. So what I'm going to be talking about is the emotions, but not the way that you're taught about emotions, not in the pathological way. So in biocognition, we look at emotions as having a terrain. And it's not for example, it's not love. The opposite of love is not fear. The opposite of hatred is not love. The opposite of courage is not coward. It's not like that at all. It doesn't work that way. So what you're going to be hearing is that emotions, and there are about 7 to 9 recognizable emotions, and it depends on whose model you're looking into. But for example, there are more emotions than the ones that are recognizable, but the ones that are recognizable across cultures are, for example, disgust, surprise, fear, sadness, happy, startledness. So those are recognizable in any culture, but there are a lot more. And love is not an emotion itself. Love is a family of emotions. So let's talk first about the emotion of, for example, the emotion of love. The opposite of love is not hatred, and it's not fear. The opposite of love is self-neglect. So devaluation, because you could either do self-recognition or self-valuation, self-significance, or you can do self-neglect. But if you, for example, before you can love something or someone, it has to have value. It has to have some kind of a valuation that you give it. It has to be defined, and I'm defining love in a very special way. And let me give you some examples. Best way to understand something in science is to give narratives, to give stories. Love requires valuation. You don't love anything that you don't value. So, for example, you are on a boat, and your lighter falls the water, and let's say you're a smoker, and I don't smoke, but let's say you're a smoker, and it falls in, but you know that there may be some sharks. Most likely, you're not going to jump in to get your lighter, because the valuation, the importance of that lighter, is not as great as your own life. But let's say that you're a father or a mother, or you have a child or an elderly person that falls overboard, and even though you know that there may be sharks there, you would take a chance and you would risk, because that is a valuation that you've given to your child, and you're willing to risk, and that's one form of loving. Loving requires valuation. But the opposite of not loving is not hatred. The opposite of not loving or not accepting that you're being loved is self-neglect. So it's not self-esteem. It's more than self-esteem. It's a self-recognition of value. And what happens is, if you don't have that self-recognition of value, and someone loves you and somebody does something really nice for you, you're not able to accept that level of love or that gratitude, because you don't feel worthy of that. And you feel uncomfortable when somebody gives you a compliment. For example, at a lower level, a compliment is a form of not accepting a gift from somebody, the gratitude. And the gratitude, the opposite of gratitude, is not being ungrateful. Again, is a self-neglect. The lack of giving importance to self. Importance not in an ego sense, but that you're valued. You have value. That you have significance, self-significance. So it's very important that we see that. That emotions are not bipolar, where courage and cowardice. Courage comes from the terrain of value. You're courageous, as I mentioned. If you're jumping in the water for something that doesn't have any value, then you're not courageous. It has nothing to do with it. You're not a coward. But if it's something that's very important to you, a child or someone that you love that goes into danger, immediately you become courageous, even if you're not. Because the value that you give is the terrain of courage. The terrain of courage is not the opposite, not being a coward, is valuing. So I guess you're beginning, hopefully, to see the picture. The self-significance is very important, more important than self-esteem. Self-significance is a way of valuing yourself, allowing good things to happen to you without sabotaging it, without creating reasons to not keep the good fortune that you have, not being loved enough. All of that comes from you not having enough self-valuation, self-importance. Importance not in an ego way, importance in a value. That's what happens. So then, so emotions come down to what we value. Well, they come down to what we value, but including ourselves. The self-significance is very important. I'm going to use this term a lot. Self-significance. And I'll give you some examples. Self-significance. Let's say the emotion of admiration. Admiration is an emotion and a cognition, is a combination, because you'll have a physiological reaction. When you admire someone, you have a physiological reaction. But let's say that you don't have that self-significance. You don't have that value where you can actually admire someone without envy. And when you admire with envy, it means that the self-valuation is not enough. So if you admire someone, you say, oh, that is so great. That's wonderful. I love that. Look how beautiful that is. That is admiration without envy. Why? Because you value yourself enough to be able to feel value for someone else. And by the way, admiration is a powerful immunological enhancer. It enhances not only immunological processes, but also hormonal, oxytocin, and you have neurotransmitters of serotonin, endorphins. It's a wonderful thing, because we're built to actually admire other people, because then we can imitate the behavior and the species grows. But if you don't have a lot of self-significance, when you see someone doing something that might be better than you, the envy comes in. And anybody can do that. Who does he think he is? That killing the potential for for admiration without envy. Another one, for example, gratitude. Gratitude is an emotion that's really very powerful. Also, you feel oxytocin. Oxytocin is a peptide hormone that actually it creates bonding. It happens during childbirth, orgasm. It happens when someone touches you, not in a sexual way, but they touches you where you're feeling that someone is connecting with you in a positive way. Oxytocin. So we're built for all those exalted emotions: gratitude, generosity, admiration without envy, love, compassion, empathy. All of those emotions, cognitions, are really requiring self-significance. Okay, self-significance. The important thing here to consider is, let's see, how can we feel more self-significant? By getting evidence that you're significant. The brain is not going to say, you can't do affirmation, oh, I'm so self-significant. It's not going to work like that. The brain is made for evidence. So, for example, and that's a great question because that's what I was getting at, self-significance. So how do you do it? I talk about self-significance and I don't tell you how to do it, then you're going to leave empty and upset. So the first thing to understand is that the brain works with evidence. So if you say, all right, I want to build my self-significance, the first question you have to ask is, who taught me not to be significant? Who taught me to be neglecting of self? Who taught me that to love myself is, for example, conceited or selfish? You look at the cultural editors. Where did you learn that? You weren't born with that. And you look at how you learned it, so you can see that it was a learned process, and anything that's learned can be unlearned. That's the first part. The second part is that you can go back and look at the evidence of when you have done something that has made you feel a sense of self-significance and valuation. You've done something for yourself that was honorable, something for someone else that was that had a lot of compassion. Those kind of things are evidence that is in the mind-body process that you can bring back. You can do a little relaxation and bring it back. When was the last time that I felt that I did something of self-significance? Something that I did that I had value in order to do it. And then embody it, see how it feels, and say, okay, that is evidence of self-significance. Then in addition to that, to create the neural maps that will grow, is that you say to yourself, I am committed to doing things of self-significance this week, which means if I value myself, I'm going to value others. If I value myself, I'm going to accept gratitude from others. If I value myself, I'm going to be generous with others, and so forth. You see, it's the terrain is self-significance. And when you do that, then you begin to get a mind-body sense that you have self-significance. And then the other emotions can come in. So it's very important that you asked it. So today the topic that just came in is a mini lesson on emotions. And emotions, not in a sense of the usual psychological way. I'm a clinical psychologist. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, postdoctoral training in psychopharmacology and all of that. So I do it differently. I don't do patient, doctor pathology. I do student, mentor, the power of self-evaluation. So it's very important that you see that. And I think that DSM-5 is on its way out, and I'm really glad that it's on its way out because it's been flawed from the beginning. And it has some very, very questionable ethical foundation. As I mentioned earlier, some of the people that are actually determining the diagnostics are paid by indirectly by pharmaceutical companies. And then they bring value up to the diagnostics that require medication. They're getting rid of it. It's going to be replaced, I'm so glad, with a research-based domain. So what they're going to be doing is that they're going to be looking at actual research that shows what is depression with research, the biochemistry of depression, the behavior of depression, the cellular level of depression, and then being able to diagnose it based on the domain of research. Okay, what are the emotions involved in love? Okay, great question. Love is a family of emotions. You can't determine love. For example, the recognizable emotions, as I mentioned earlier, about 7, 9, more or less. And you can recognize happiness, you can recognize sadness, disgust, surprise, all of that you can recognize. But love, you can't tell, oh, that person's in love, because that person could be thinking about ice cream. So it's not recognizable in that sense because it's very complex. And the family of emotions with love, number one is valuing, again, self, and valuing the person that you love. Valuing it, giving significance to the person that you love, number one. Second, a sense of safety that you want to give to yourself and to that person. Third, empathic connection with that person. Fourth, a sense of belongingness with that person. Gratitude when you get something from that person. Generosity without expecting anything back. So you see, it's complex. But the most important thing is that you have to value, you have to give significance to the person you love. And you don't love things. You know, I love my car. You don't love your car. You like your car, intensely like your car. But you don't love your car. Or you don't love a sandwich. You love a person or an idea. You can love an idea. You can love deity, or you can love nature. Those things are important. But mostly love I'm talking about is love with people, loving people. Okay, so again, the people that are being trying to be funny and missing the opportunity are getting blocked because we want those people who are clowns to respect the audience. People that are here that are serious about learning from someone who is a professional. And then if you come in with your cheap fun and all the stupidity, that is not self-valuation. What you're doing is you're devaluing yourself and attempting to devalue everybody else. So what we're doing is that we are blocking people. No religion, no sex, and no clowning. So let's keep it all out, okay? So there are quite a few emotions. I'll go on as I move along, but love is complex set of emotions. The most important one is that you can't love what you don't value. You can't love what you don't value. You can't love yourself if you don't have that self-significance, and you can't love anyone because it becomes a need. It becomes a need. So it's very important to see that if you're with someone and you don't particularly value that person in the sense of the emotions that I talked about, gratitude, generosity, empathy, then what you're doing is you're needing that person rather than loving that person. And when you need something, you abuse it sometimes when you don't have it. When you love, truly love, you don't abuse it because it's a powerful, powerful set of emotions. So now getting to creating more of the sense of self-valuation and self-significance. I want to talk about motivation versus a sense of commitment and discipline. Motivation is highly overrated. Highly overrated. Oh, somebody says, I read both of your books, The Mind Body Code. Wonderful. Thank you so much. They're both bestsellers. The Mind Body Code and The Mind Body Self are bestsellers, and I talk about these things in my books. Can you teach us how to love? Yeah, that's what I'm going to be talking about. So how if the terrain of love is self-significance and self-value, then the way to learn love is by letting the terrain grow, right? And you let the terrain grow by using not motivation, by using discipline. Motivation is for rats. And unfortunately, a lot of people are motivational speakers. I think that's a bunch of crap. That's not good science. I think that's junk science. You're not a rat that gets cheese to be rewarded or punished with shock. We're much more important than that. But how do you learn discipline? It's not about will, not strong will. And discipline is learned by, number one, taking motivation out of the existence of what you're doing. So for example, you want to get up in the morning early to exercise. You don't say, I'm going to motivate myself after I exercise, I'm going to get some chocolate, or when I get up. No, none of that. That's for rats. That won't work in the long run. What works is that you say to yourself, I am going to be doing this. I'm not going to allow any motivation to come in. I'm not going to allow myself to walk in my head out of it. And I'm not going to allow my emotions to get me out of it. I'm going to be doing it with what Kierkegaard called a leap of faith. That's what discipline is. A leap of faith. Not necessarily a religious faith. Faith in the moment. You get up, it's 5. You don't think. If you think, you're gone. 5, up. I don't want to. No, up. That is how you build a discipline gradually. By doing, by creating the movement with the preparation that you created, okay? So you do that, and then you develop discipline rather than waiting for motivation to move you. You can't move yourself out of, for example, you can't motivate yourself out of depression. You can't say, I'm going to try to feel better so I can then get up and go for a walk. It's not going to happen. The behavior, the movement changes the emotion, not the other way around. So you walk yourself out of a particular emotion by doing it. Because we know now that the five senses consolidate information by movement. So movement is very important. You can talk about, I'm going to go work out, I'm going to do, it doesn't do anything. When you do it, the movement has a psychoneuroimmunological and neuropsychological component that actually brings the hormones, the brain process, and the activation of the senses, the movement in time and space, all kinds of things that have been studied that will let you know then that if you get up in the morning and you do what you need, make your bed, by the way, make your bed, because your room has to be in order. You can't have order in disorder around you. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. How do you, let's see, how do thoughts play a role in faith? Not at all. Words, emotions, nothing, because faith, whether it's faith in God or faith in what you're going to be doing, it's what Kierkegaard called a leap of faith, meaning that you're doing it without evidence. There's no evidence. You're doing it without evidence. And a belief that you have without evidence. So it's very important to understand that when you take that leap of faith, and by the way, science is also a leap of faith constantly. David Hume was able to show that. He said, for example, that we know that the sun comes up, or of course the rotation of the earth, and it's been happening for, the earth is 4 billion years old. Well, it's been happening for 4 billion years. And you would say, oh, that's overwhelming evidence. Yes, but the next day, it's based on faith, even though you have tremendous information and evidence that it's worked in the past. But knowing, you say the sun's going to come up. Why? Well, because there's evidence. Yeah, but why? Is it evidence, or because you believe that it's going to come up? That's faith. So you can practice faith. Practice faith by jumping in and doing it. Okay, and then also you can go back again to the technique, the biocognitive technique that I use, which is go back. When was the last time that I had faith in something that worked? I had faith in this. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I did it and it worked. How did that feel? Embody it. And you have an archive of faith that came in. And it gives you a sense of what it feels like. But faith, by definition, is action without evidence. And it's very important. How to defeat irrational jealousy? Well, again, you have to go back. If you're jealous, it's because you think you're going to lose something. Envy and jealousy, although appear to be very similar, they're different psychologically and even neuropsychologically. When you're jealous of someone, it's because you feel that that person's going to take something valuable away from you, a person or a thing, whatever. Envy is a sense that you wish you had something that you don't have and someone else has. So it's very important to see the difference. And jealousy and envy also have to do with low self-valuation. So if you feel, especially as you say, irrational jealousy, they're not irrational because it's rational to you, but anyway, to others it would be. So what you do is, if you're jealous of someone, it's because you're not valuing yourself enough to feel comfortable with admiring without envy. You see how it comes around? I was talking about admiration without envy. Well, if you don't have that self-significance, you can't admire without envy. So what do you feel? Envy or jealousy. So you see how it always goes back to the terrain of self-significance. Very important. I find we are jealous most of people who have a little more than we do because it seems obtainable. That's not jealousy, that's envy. Envy is when you want something that someone has. Jealousy is when you're afraid of losing something. So it's very important to see that. And I think that we aren't as jealous of them that have much more. No, because jealousy doesn't have to do with that. Jealousy, remember, the operational definition, at least in my theory of biocognitive science, is that jealousy is that you're afraid you're going to lose something, someone. For example, you're jealous that your boyfriend or your girlfriend is going to like someone more than you. Envy is wanting something that you don't have and feeling bad about it. Like the envy of the poor some poor, because the poor that have good self-esteem don't envy the rich, by the way. And the rich that have self-esteem don't feel guilty for being rich. So it's very important. Guilty and shame, all of those are related. Again, I can't overemphasize the importance of self-significance in everything that you do. So we want to build discipline. We want to get away from motivation. And we want to get away from thinking that if you do affirmations that I'm a good person, it's going to work. It doesn't work like that. Don't ask the universe to do anything, by the way, because the universe is so busy trying to expand constantly. It's been expanding for about probably 14 billion years. It's not going to stop and say, let me give her a new boyfriend because she's had a hard time. The universe doesn't cover your back. The universe doesn't do a damn thing except expand. That's it. All right. So how to build self-esteem, and self-significance. Again, self-significance, you build it by evidence of worthy things that you do. It doesn't come in your head. Motivational speakers will cheerlead you for a while, and then after a while it comes right back. What's called the default mode. In brain science and neuropsychology, neuroscience, it's called default mode. Is what the brain uses when everything quiets down. The brain uses as the goggles to look at the world. So you can go to a motivational speaker. No, it's wonderful. It's so great. I feel so good. And after a while, then you begin, because you go back to the default mode. Motivation only motivates people to make money to write about motivation. Doesn't work. It works for a while, but it doesn't change the neuropsychology of the individual, and it doesn't change the psychoneuroimmunology, which is how your body responds, your immune, nervous, and endocrine system respond to your emotions and your cognitions and your behavior. How can we know our value? We have an intuitive sense of value. Although some people are taught so much punishment, they really don't know what value is all about. But we have a sense. When we're born, we have a sense that we develop of what is valuable and what is not. To go out and defecate in the middle of the street, that's not valuable. It doesn't feel valuable. So it's just, I'm being a little, extreme here. But to give you an idea, when you help someone cross the street, or someone's in need of help, and you go there and you help them, you get that sense of connection. That's oxytocin. That gives you value. So you have to have a moral compass, and you have to develop a moral compass inside. If you don't have a moral compass, you don't have a right or wrong. And right now, unfortunately, kids are being taught things that have nothing to do with moral compass. They're more concerned with pronouns than with character. Character is what matters, not pronouns. Character. Whatever you call yourself, it doesn't matter. It's character what matters. So when people ask me here, what's your pronoun? No pronouns, character. I don't care what you can call yourself, he, she, it, whatever. Character is what matters. Okay, so so I'm being that's why I'm the house shrink here on TikTok, self-appointed, of course. So by the way, if you just joined, it's a mini lesson on emotions, but it goes all over the place as people ask questions. And make sure that you follow my channel, and make sure that you like my channel, because it helps me get more information out to you. And since this is going to be a longer video, it'll be posted on my YouTube channel, which is Dr. Mario Martinez. Go there, like and follow. I have over 540,000 people now that have been there. So it's really very good. I have over 300 videos free. And how do you build good character? Well, what happens is that those are really good questions. We're not taught in modern times. We're not taught the classics. You're not taught, for example, Aristotle and Socrates, Plato. You're not taught any of that. And these people talked about moral behavior, and they talked about a moral compass. Aristotle talked about the middle, the what he called the mean, the middle. So, for example, conceit is looked at in a particular way by Aristotle. He said, for example, pride is good, Pride is good. Too much pride is conceit. Not enough pride is fear. So you see how it's a terrain that has a middle ground? But they don't teach that in school. They teach you how to put on a condom on a cucumber, or do a 6-week course to find out your pronoun, but not a damn thing about the character and the building of the individual. By the way, we know now that the immune system loves good character. It's been shown that character matters immunologically. So it's very important you see that the immune system has morals in the sense of knowing what's right and what's wrong. And you're not, so if you're not taught the classics, then you're not taught to argue either, by the way. You're taught to have sound bites. I like this guy. Oh, because I like him. What do you like? Oh, because he's good looking. Is he going to be a good boss? Is he going to be a good politician? Oh, I like him. He's really nice. That's bullshit. That's not real thinking. Real thinking goes to the logical conclusion and looks at what is it that that person is offering. And take things to a logical conclusion means that, well, I'm just going to go ahead and do this. Why? Oh, because I like it. Okay, let's take it to its logical conclusion. Let's say that you do it for a year. What do you think would happen if you do it for a year? What do you think would happen? So to get people to think and get a sense of what is right and what is wrong. And it's not a relative thing like postmodernism. Postmodernism basically is what is being taught in schools now. It says, oh, look, modernism failed, the Renaissance failed, and the Enlightenment failed. There's nothing really there. There's no right or wrong. It's just all relative. Everything is relative. There's no right. It's all subjective. That is bullshit, if you'll excuse the clinical expression. There is right and there's wrong. Not self-righteous right, but there's right and there's wrong. And it's within you. You have it. You have to deal with it. You have to go inward and cultivate it and find out what it is. And if you had a terrible childhood that you weren't taught that, look for heroes. Look for people that you can model the behavior after. And there are plenty of people out there, well-known people, even fictitious characters. They have morals, and those morals are what you want to incorporate so you can be a good person. You can be an elegant man or an elegant woman or an elegant human being, which is what matters. No, you're not taught the Socratic Method. The Socratic Method is really powerful. First, he says, know thyself. You have to know yourself. But second, you teach by asking questions. And I teach when I work with large corporations and executives, I teach them to use the Socratic Method. When there's a problem, you say, why did you screw up? What happened? What did you do? How do you think you could have done things better? Especially with children. With children, you want to use the Socratic Method. The Socratic Method, a child drops a glass. You dropped the glass. I told you not to play with that glass. Or 1, 2, that's junk. They drop the glass, they break the glass. You go there, and the first Socratic, what happened? I mean, everybody knows what happened, but you got to get them to think rather than be external. What happened? Oh, I dropped the glass and I broke it. So what do we do? I don't know. What do you think we could do? And if they say, I don't know. What do you think if maybe we pick it up and we clean it up? What do you think? Okay, let's clean it up together. That's what happens when something breaks. You fix it. You take care of it. How do you feel now that you did it? You see, it's Socratic to get the person to go inward, to reflect, to contemplate, rather than external reward, punishment, rat psychology. That's the idea. Okay, now questions. This is a mini lesson on emotions. So if you have any questions, go ahead and ask. House Shrink is here, and I'm not going to go very much longer, but I can answer some good questions here. All the idiots have been blocked, so we have some decent, intelligent people here now, building character. So, questions. I'm going to drink some water. Okay, Tony just joined. Make sure that all of you that are here, make sure that you follow my channel, and that you also go to my YouTube channel, Dr. Mario Martinez. What to do when it's abusive, when what is abusive? You have to tell me what you mean by what is abusive. And I'll try to answer it for you if you be more specific. Carter Carter 55. All right? So go ahead. And meanwhile, I'll just continue. So I can't overemphasize the importance of building discipline. Verbal or physical abuse, okay. Here's where righteous anger comes in. Not self-righteous anger, but righteous anger. Righteous anger is the anger where you set limits with people who are abusive with you. And you don't have to be aggressive about it. You set limits with people and you give them permission to not like it. Because if you don't give them permission to not like it, you'll fall back into it again. So with righteous anger, it's okay to get angry. In fact, the immune system is enhanced when you have righteous anger. Not chronic anger, but righteous anger. So it's verbal or physical. You don't allow anybody to abuse you. But if you were taught self-neglect, then sometimes you don't feel you even have a right to protect yourself. Or you don't have a right for someone to, if they abuse you, you rationalize it. Well, he didn't mean it, that kind of thing. No, you don't get abused physically or emotionally. That's where the courage comes in. And courage comes from self-discipline and self-significance. See how they all come together? How can we overcome, change our personality? Well, personality is something that is a bit ambiguous. Personality is a set of reactions. It's a potential set of reactions under certain conditions. But the problem with it is it doesn't look at context that much, and it doesn't look at culture that much. So what you want to change is what you were taught. Your first thing that you do, remember this, go to who taught you that by observation. You might say, well, my parents told me not to lie. Did they lie? Oh, yeah, they lied. Okay, so you learned to lie. It's observational learning. That's the first thing you do. And the reason you do is to find out where it comes from, but also to know that it was learned. And anything that is learned can be unlearned. Very, very few things come genetically. There are about 4 or 5% of illnesses and problems come from genetic flaw. The rest is learned. The rest is acquired. So the good news is that anything that you learned can be unlearned. But it requires patience. It requires discipline, not motivation. So be aware. Discipline. The hell with motivation. Forget motivation. Be disciplined. Be strong. How can you be strong? By practicing being strong. When you didn't know how to ride a bike, what happened? I can't ride a bike. How am I going to learn? Well, I'm going to think about it and motivate myself. No, you got up, you did it, you fell a few times, and then you found your balance. Never forget it again. That's what discipline is all about. It's learning to be who you say you are, not with motivation. You don't let your thoughts to pollute you, your emotion to pollute you. You do it with a leap of faith. And the leap of faith is, I do it without any evidence. I do it without any motivation. I do it without any enticement. Do it. And then after you do it, see how it feels. See how it feels, and you do it more and more and more. If you fail, it's okay. You try it again. Yeah, motivation comes with an expectation, but it's also, look, motivation is, I'm giving you something for you to do something that you wouldn't do unless I give you this motivation. What is that? You're not a rat. You're a human being. You don't do motivation. You do inspiration. You can inspire people, but discipline is the way to do it. So, for example, I 3 days a week, I get up at 5 in the morning to go swimming. At 5 in the morning, sometimes it's quite cold. Of course, the pool is heated. I'm not going to do the Arctic thing. But I get up in the morning, and I know that if I start thinking about it, I'm not going to do it. I use one person as a model. His name was Rondon, Candido Rondon, who was a Brazilian explorer, and he and Teddy Roosevelt found and mapped the river of doubt. And Rondon would get up, and while they were doing their exploration, they would get up every morning early as they were out there exploring, and he would jump in the water, even though there may have been some piranhas. In fact, a piranha bit one of his toes off. He kept doing it. So when I get up in the morning, I go into Rondon consciousness. That's it. And then I think, well, at the pool, there are not going to be any piranhas. So it's okay. I'm doing better than Rondon. So you can use a model, but you go into consciousness of discipline. That's how you do it. By practicing and by being kind to yourself and knowing that you get better and better the more you do it. And if you're a disciplined person, you're going to be healthier. You're going to succeed more in business. You're going to succeed more in relationship. Now, I don't mean obsessive compulsive. That's not discipline. That's excessive. I mean with the Aristotelian mean, something that's reasonable. For example, I was out of town Sunday, came in Sunday night, and on Mondays I do the swimming. I said, okay, I'm not going to do the swimming because I have to get up at 5 and I need some rest. So I stayed late, and then I went to work out and do weights and other things. But you see, you don't want to be obsessive compulsive. But most of the time you want to keep your word by jumping into the leap of faith. If you get obsessive compulsive, what you do is that you stop doing it and look at the anxiety that it causes. Because when you don't do things the way you think you need to do them, you feel anxiety. So you got to deal with the anxiety, not with the obsessive compulsiveness. And once you control the anxiety that it causes, then you can have control over the behavior. The anxiety is what forces you to do it again. If you are able to control the anxiety, change the anxiety, then you have control over the thoughts and the emotions. But first you have to deal with the consequence, what it's causing you to do it. So it's really very powerful. I deal with passive-aggressive. Passive-aggressive people were taught by powerful people that they couldn't fight back, so they try to counter-control you with passive-aggressiveness. Passive-aggressiveness is a way to counter-control. For example, if you micromanage a child, they'll become passive-aggressive because they can't confront you directly. You have to constantly micromanage them, so they start getting passive-aggressive and they do the opposite of what you want them to do. So passive-aggressiveness is a counter-control from overwhelming power as you're growing up. And then later you use it yourself, or you deal with people who are passive-aggressive like you. All right, so I'm going to be finishing up here. The lesson was on emotions and all the ramifications of emotions, but look at them as terrains. What is the best way to deal with ADHD and brain fog? Well, action. ADHD means, and I know the biochemistry of it and everything, and I had some really negative comments when I talked about ADHD and all that, but the point is that as a neuropsychologist, I can tell you that it requires awareness of slow movement. Awareness of slow movement. There is dopamine and all that, but awareness of, and how do you do that? Tai Chi, Zen walk, karate, many other things that force your body to slow down. And I'm oversimplifying here, but slow movement. Dress me slowly, I'm in a hurry, like Don Quixote said to Sancho Panza. And the man from La Mancha, Sancho Panza was helping him put on his armor so he could fight the windmills. And he said, dress me slowly, Sancho, I'm in a hurry. All right, so thank you very much, and stay tuned. Make sure that you follow my channel. Go to my YouTube channel, Dr. Mario Martinez, free stuff there, and make sure you follow and that you like, as well as here, follow and like. So, this is, okay, more on HDHD. I have a few videos on HDHD, by the way. So you can go there and yeah, practice self-significance while moving, practicing very good. Exactly, that's exactly what needs to happen. And that's a way, another way of getting discipline with movement, slow movement, disciplining yourself to do things that need to be done slowly. I have all the time in the world is the mantra that you want to remember. All right, enjoy and have wonderful holidays. And hopefully I'll see you before that. But if not, enjoy and make sure you follow and like my channel. Goodbye.